Chapter 4, Fate, Part 1. What he meant by, he also believes that. I still doubt whether my words back then gave you the reason to leave. Yichen's voice was neither loud nor low, but each word struck her heart heavily. How could he say such a thing? She clearly remembered the situation that day. After hearing what Yi said, she immediately went to confirm with him. Yichen would never lie to her. If he said it wasn't true, she would unquestionably believe him. But what if he really liked Yi? What would she do then? The worst scenario she could think of on her way there was that Yichen would tell her he also loved Yi. She never expected to be met with his disdainful gaze and cutting words. Go, I don't want to see you. Xiao Mosheng, I wish I had never known you. His resolute tone and expression still felt like a shattering blow when she recalled them now. But now he was saying she betrayed him. What do you mean? Mosheng stared at her shoes and asked softly but clearly. The two of them standing still amidst the moving crowd attracted the attention of those around them. Yichen pulled her to a secluded spot, released his grip on her, and lit a cigarette. How should he tell her the truth? No, he couldn't. He spoke firmly. That day, your father came to see me. Seeing her shocked expression, a faint mocking smile appeared on his handsome face. Didn't expect that, did you? Ha! I didn't expect it either. My girlfriend turned out to be the mayor's daughter. Mosheng's face went pale. The mayor's daughter. The mayor's daughter. What an ironic title. She and Yichen came from the same place, Y City. Back then, they regarded it as a huge coincidence and fate, but now it was a source of deep embarrassment. If he knew she was Xiao Qingyuan's daughter, then he must also know. Mosheng said unsteadily, you should know about my father's situation. Yes. Yichen nodded. Xiao Qingyuan was involved in corruption and bribery worth tens of millions, and his deeds were exposed before he committed suicide in prison, shocking the entire country. Mosheng closed her eyes, feeling indifferent. What did my father say to you? Yichen lowered his gaze. He could still vividly recall Xiao Qingyuan's words that day. You're a very outstanding young man, Xiaosheng likes you a lot, and I don't want to object. If you're willing to go to the United States with Xiaosheng, I'll help you with everything, visa, accommodation, school, you don't need to worry about anything. What a tempting offer. After a long silence, Yichen said heavily, as a poor student living on part-time jobs and scholarships, what do you think he said to me? Mosheng fell silent. She understood her father. He always scorned people who had no value or background he could exploit. She could fully imagine what excessively harsh words he must have said to Yichen. Otherwise, with Yichen's composure, how could he be so furious with her? I'm sorry. The truth turned out to be like this. Her long-held beliefs were completely overturned, and Mosheng's mind was in chaos, feeling like everything had turned upside down. Who is this sorry for? Yourself or your father? If it's on behalf of your father, there's no need. Yichen said coldly. Mosheng weakly defended herself. I didn't know at the time. Then why didn't you come and ask me? Yichen's voice was as icy and sharp as coming from hell. You sentenced me to death without even asking. Xiao Mosheng, guess how much I hated you over these years. Hate. Mosheng retreated in panic, but she couldn't escape from his control. He suddenly grabbed her shoulders tightly, the force making her wonder if her bones would shatter. I never provoked you, why did you come and provoke me? And once you did, why did you give up halfway? His desperate and angry questioning made Mosheng unable to utter even a sorry. She instinctively closed her eyes, afraid to look at him. I just want to ask you now. Yichen gradually calmed down, his burning gaze fixed on her. If you had known everything back then, would you still have left? Would she still have left? Mosheng was stunned. She never expected him to ask such a question. If it was 7 years ago, she would have unhesitatingly said no. After all, at that time, going to the United States was just a way to escape the pain of failed love for her. But now she understood that everything 7 years ago was already planned by her father as an escape plan. Otherwise, how could the visa be processed so quickly? How could everything in the United States be arranged in advance? Everything had been decided without her knowledge, and she had no doubt that even if she didn't want to go, she would have been forced onto the plane. Mosheng lowered her head. I'm sorry. Yichen understood, and he suddenly let go of her. Disappointment and anger in his eyes seemed capable of tearing her apart. After a long time, he finally spoke with forced calmness, and now? What now? Mosheng didn't understand. Do you want to come back to me now? Yichen said with some stiffness. The world outside suddenly fell silent. Mosheng stared at him in astonishment, only hearing the loud pounding of her heart. I don't plan to waste too much time on this matter, nor do I have the interest to get to know someone again and build a relationship from scratch, so you are the most suitable, aren't you? Mosheng listened in a daze, and her heart gradually sank. Because we know each other, because we are suitable. But Yichen, do you really know the person standing in front of you, Xiao Mosheng? Sometimes she feels like a complete stranger to herself. But all of this doesn't matter now. She no longer has the strength to chase after a distant heart, nor does she want to possess a love that could be shattered at any moment. She can't bear to experience the sound of the world collapsing around her for a second time. So, Yichen, I'm sorry. Forgive my weakness. I just didn't expect that even you couldn't give me courage. She actually rejected him so quickly. Yichen steadied himself and said, You don't have to answer me so quickly, you. His words were gently interrupted by Mosheng, I am married. The words abruptly stopped, and Yichen looked at her incredulously, asking each word with unmistakable clarity, What did you say? Mosheng fixed her gaze on her own shadow on the ground and said softly, I got married 3 years ago, in the United States. Yichen's face turned cold and gloomy, emitting an aura that seemed to freeze the air around him. He glared at her fiercely, as if he could strangle her at any moment. For a long time, she finally heard his ice-cold voice, Xiao Mosheng, I must have been crazy to let you trample on me like this. Days passed unchanged, and when Mosheng saw the notice about the National Day holiday on the magazine's bulletin board, she realized that September was coming to an end unnoticed. The entire summer had passed just like that. As National Day drew near, the atmosphere in the magazine became more relaxed. When it was almost time to finish work on the 30th, Xiaohong came over to ask Mosheng, Ashing, how are you planning to spend the 7-day National Day holiday? I haven't thought about it yet. Mosheng was busy sorting out the photos on her desk. Didn't think about it. I've been looking forward to it since May Day. Her exaggerated expression amused Mosheng, and she casually asked, why is it such a long break this year? It's like this every year. Xiaohong said somewhat strangely, then suddenly understood, oh, you've been abroad for too long, you probably don't know. We've had a 7-day holiday for several years now to promote tourism. This year, I plan to go to Phoenix Ancient Town. Do you want to come along? Seeing Xiaohong's sweet expression, Mosheng knew she must be going with that doctor. She smiled and said, "Should I accompany you throughout the trip and take pictures of you as a couple? My fee is quite high." "Hey, you're so annoying." Xiao Hong covered her face in embarrassment. After a while, she put her hand down but noticed that Mosheng, who had just been joking with her, fell into silence again with a vacant expression. Xiao Hong pushed her gently. "Ashing, what's wrong with you? You've been acting strange lately." "Oh, nothing." Mosheng came back to her senses. "With these extra days, I'm thinking about what to do." After work, she still didn't know what to do. The streets were noticeably livelier, with stores looking refreshed. Mosheng strolled along, occasionally stopping to buy some snacks, then continuing to walk aimlessly. Until she saw the familiar and simple school gate, she realized that she had come to see university. It surprised her, and she was shocked that she had walked half the city, from her workplace to here. The school gate should be much livelier than usual, with students everywhere carrying their luggage, their faces wearing simple and joyful smiles. Mosheng recalled her time as a student when she would be excited for the holidays. Looking back now, it seemed like a dream. With her hands in her pockets, she strolled along the tree-lined avenue of the university. Her mood was not as fluctuating as when she came here with Yichen last time, but there was a sense of desolation amidst the calmness. It felt as if her life had gone astray since leaving this university, but now, what was the right way to move forward? "Do you want to come back to me now?" Yichen's low voice echoed in her mind once again. Mosheng stopped walking, closed her eyes, and waited for the throbbing pain in her heart to pass. To come back to him, a scenario she had imagined countless times while abroad. Often, when she was absent-minded, she would start to fantasize about reuniting with Yichen, envisioning the two of them being together happily. It was the only consolation and joy during her long and lonely days, and all her strength and perseverance came from this imagined happiness. However, when she returned to China, and Yichen wanted to turn her fantasies into reality in a rational and cold manner, she hesitated. Neither he nor she was the same as they were in her memories as innocent teenagers. The scars from 7 years of separation constantly reminded them of each other's pain, perhaps only small wounds, but equally unbearable. Because they cared too much, they couldn't bear it. Between them, the die had already been cast 7 years ago. Unknowingly, she had walked to the edge of the sports field. Many people were jogging on the rubber track. How long would it take her to run 800 meters now? Mosheng crouched under the railings, standing on the track. She tiptoed and drew a starting line, whispering, 1, 2, 3, before dashing out at a speed that was like running an 800-meter race. With her eyes closed, she ran through the night wind until she reached the finish line. 4 minutes and 25 seconds, too slow. Someone tapped her head. Slower than yesterday. She grumbled in frustration. Then, looking up at him with shining eyes, she said, "Yichen, how about during the exam, you run ahead, and I'll chase from behind. That way, I'm sure to run faster." After he gave her a glare, Mosheng felt a bit unappreciated. "How about hanging your photo in front of me?" "Xiao Mosheng, do you have no shame?" Yichen finally couldn't help but scold her, his ears turning slightly red. Smiling, she opened her eyes and found the finish line empty. A sudden dull pain struck her heart. The clearer the details, the more acute the pain. Tears began to fall, one by one, without warning. Gradually, she couldn't hold back any longer, and Mosheng sat on the ground, burying her head as she sobbed loudly. From now on, at any finish line, Yichen would never be there.